On the screen, I see one is present. Anyway, I haven't come to the time on the dot. Mr. Anaf Ahmed. So 3 is present on the screen. I am waiting for the time. Within a short time, I will go for talking over the class. Naim, Pluto, Afnan, you are all warmly invited to my class. You are most welcome after the Idul Azha vacation for online class. I have come back to meet you online. And today I have already given the subject of my class, how to describe a pie chart. So now you are only one. One is now present and 2 is now off. Ahnaf Ahmed, Shahidul Islam, Naim, and then Shahabuddin or Salahuddin Nepsun. So I think you are all quite okay by the grace of Almighty Allah. I ask you, if you hear me and see me clearly, please write comments. Write comments whether you watch me clearly and whether you hear me clearly. Please write comments. You haven't yet written the comment on the quality of the video and the sound system. Are you hearing me clearly? Yes, Shahidul Islam has written that he is hearing me clearly. Yes, sir. All clear, sir. Thank you very much. So within a short time, I will go for talking on the topic. The topic is already given on the scroll. As a banner, how to describe a pie chart. So anyway, now I'm going to my own class. I am going to my screen sharing. So please go to my screen sharing. So this is the page, and sometimes in the ongoing class, I'll go back to see your comments, whether you are hearing me clearly or whether you are understanding me clearly. Time to time, I ask you to write your comments on whether you understand my class or not. Because if you don't understand or if you can't understand the class will be meaningless. So I need to go back sometimes to read the comments you write. Today I will discuss how to describe a chart or graph, a definition of chart or graph, or what is a chart, what is a graph, or what are the rules of describing a chart. I will go. I will go talking on all these things so that you can understand all these things very clearly. First of all, I will tell something about the definition of a chart or graph. And I think you see on the screen very clearly, because I have colored many of the sentences, the words, so that they can appear very, very clear and attractive before you. You see, a graph or chart or diagram is a diagrammatical illustration of a set of data we know in a chart or graph. Any kinds of chart, it may be a line chart, a graph chart, say pie chart, any kind of chart, there must be some data. Data maybe or maybe of percentage, maybe of digit or words, or sometimes it may be some information, but there must be some data. And when we are writing or describing the chart or graph or any kind of chart, we have to illustrate or describe all the data given on the chart. And that is why, for your easy understanding, I have made a list of different important uh, definitions, or how we can illustrate, how we can define a chart. I've given a number of definitions here. I think you can read all these things, all the definitions. A graph or chart or diagram is a diagrammatical illustration of a set of data. A chart presents information in the form of graphs, diagrams, or tables. Most important definition, I think, has been given in this line. I have uh, a graph shows the mathematical relationship between sets of data. It is very important to know. A graph shows the mathematical relations. That means how different data given on different places of the chart or graph, etc., are related with one another mathematically. And we actually describe in words when we describe a data. I did describe a chart or pie chart or graph, etc. And then you see, I have made it red. A chart displays data and asks further study of a topic. We know there must be a topic of any kind of chart, and when we describe, there is a topic, and we have to go for describe the topic and talking on the topic in different ways. And we see in the last one, researchers and scientists often use graphs to report findings from different research. Actually, this item of composition, that means writing or preparing pie chart or any kinds of chart, are very much important for researchers and scientists. People who research or scientists, when do research, actually they require this type of composition or figure. So usually structure of a chart, that means how we structurize, or what are the segments or elements we use in describing a chart or a pie chart or a line chart, etc. Actually, there are as many as 5 segments or parts of a chart. First one is usual introduction. Actually, in introduction, we explain what the chart is about. That means the subject of the chart. Introduction introduces the subject of the chart, but in different language. Actually, in introduction, we use paraphrase, not the same language as given in the subject of the question. Then, in the second para, introduction in the first para, second paragraph is general overview or outline of the chart. Actually, in the general overview, we write the general outline or the important aspects of the chart, but without using any data. That means there must not be any data or mathematical digit. You see here gives an outline of the main points without mentioning any data. And then the third paragraph, specific feature 1, there are 2 specific features. And the first specific feature actually includes evaluation of the study of the chart. That means in the first feature, we have to evaluate the different data given in the chart. And this very part explains the data using comparison and contrast. So in this section, you are to explain the data given in the chart using comparison and contrast, similarities and dissimilarities. And then specific feature number 2. And in feature 2, we actually analyze the data and take some decision. The analysis is made in such a way that it gives us some conclusion. And then the last para is actually conclusion. Conclusion closes with a decisive note or positive note or a decision. Conclusion actually gives us a decision that the writer or the maker of the chart gives from the data given in the chart. So this is very, very important. So there are, you see, as many as 5 parts or segments of a chart when we describe it. And we can use the following sentence structures or words while describing a chart. In the third paragraph, that means the paragraph that evaluates the chart, we can use these sentence structures. This seems to suggest that this is positive because of, this is clearly due to, one reason for this could be an evaluation of this data suggests, provides evidence for, or highlights. To provide evidence to my previous point, the graph highlights. Overall, this highlights the significance of. Therefore, this provides evidence that. So these are the sentences that you can use in the first feature. Then the second feature actually for analysis. When we are doing analysis, we can use these sentence structures. Overall summary, overall there is, or there has been, or there, or generally there is. What you can say it is, from the paragraph, from the graph, we can see, I would like to focus your attention on. If you look at this, you will see or notice or understand. A key significant area is, or two key significant areas are. An important point is, or two important points are. What is interesting here is, an interesting observation is, an analysis of the graph illustrates that looking at. So these are the sentence structures you can use in the analysis feature. Anyway, we can also use the following vocabulary, that means words, in describing the chart. Up. Up indicates increase, rise, grew up, went up, so, double, multiply, climb, exceed, jump, climb, rocket, etc. When we see a tendency of rising up, when there is a trend of going up, we can use these words to describe. When there is a tendency or trend to go down, we can use these words. Down, decrease, drop, fall, decline, plummet, halve, depreciate, plunge, go down, etc. So when there is up and down, we can use flux. That means the condition is fluctuating, not restful, but restless. So then we can use these words: up and down, fluctuate, swell, undulate, deviate, etc. So when the situation remains same, we can use these words: stable, established, level up, remain constant, remain steady, or remain consistent. Once the situation changes, that means when fluctuates, we also, that means when situation goes from one position to another. There is a movement from one point to another point, from one position to another position, from one situation to another situation. We can use these words: gently, gradually, slightly, steadily, rapidly, steeply, considerably, substantially, quickly, little by little, suddenly, sharply, dramatically, suddenly, etc. If we want to indicate the top position of the data or of the situation, we can use these words: reached a peak, reached its highest level. Also, we can use these words when we want to indicate bottom. That means the lowest position. Bottomed out, bottomed out, sank to a tau. A tau means ditch or furrow. The lowest level. That means sank to a tau or sank to the lowest level. Anyway, now I am going for Piscer. Today we'll talk about Piscer. First definition. What is a Piscer? A pie chart, actually, this pie chart is very important for examination. Most of the years, pie chart is said in different board exam questions. A pie chart is a circular statistical graphic. A pie chart is a circular statistic. That means the chart is circle. There is statistics, and of course, this is a graph. It is divided into slices. So you see here, it's a circular. You see, circular. You see, there are statistics given, school and houses 25%. These are the statistics and graph. It is divided into different into slices to illustrate numerical proportion. Numerical, that means from number. The word numerical has come from number. Numerical is adjective from number. Proportion, that indicates ratio. The art's length of each slice is proportional to the quantity it presents. It is named so because of its similarity to the feature of a pie. It looks like a pie. We know it looks like a pie. A pie is always round, and pie is a unit of our money. You know, our money's name is taka. And then there was once pie. Before many years ago, there was pie. Actually, nowadays you don't see a pie, but say 30 years ago, 30 years back, there was pie. Pie is round in shape. Anyway, there is a question, and now we will go for studying the question. The pie chart below shows the time allocation of students' daily activities. Describe this chart in 50 words, at least in 80 words. We have to use at least 80 words, but we can use more words than 80. And you see, I have used more than 80 words, more than 100 years. Anyway, so the question is about the how students allocate their times for daily activities. Allocation of time of students' daily activities. We know a student actually does many activities in a day, and in order to do those activities, they have to allocate time. Students allocate times for doing daily activities, and this is a, you see, pie chart. It looks like a pie. You see, school and house 25. That means the student actually remains at school and house 25% time of the whole day. And then he spends 30% time for sleeping. He uses 20% time for studying. And he goes for recreational activities for 12% of the whole time. But he plays only 5% time. We know play means actually physical recreation. So it is very much important to understand that the student spends very little time, short time, for physical recreation or playing games. Recreation may be different types. It may be on mobile phone, on television, on computer. But these recreation does not necessarily refer to or indicate any kind of physical activities. But a student is required to do physical activities for keeping sound in health and in mind. And he has to spend 80% of time for other activities. So this is the chart. You uh, This is the statistics of the time allocation the students spends the whole day. We have got the information from here, and you see there is a subject. You see the subject or headline. You see, I have written headline of the Piscer, time allocation of students' daily activities. This is headline. Headline comes first over the, you see, figure, over the figure of the chart. This is the subject, time allocation. But you see how is this information given in the question? Time allocation of students' daily activities. But I have written in this way: time allocation of students' daily activities. Just I've taken from here to this point. Time allocation of students' daily activities. So school and house 25%, sleep 30%, study 20%, recreation 12%, play 5%, other 8%. And from the discussion, we have come to know that there must be 5 segments or 5 parts of our description. When we will describe this very pie chart, we will have to divide our description into 5 segments. Number 1, introduction. Number 2, overview. Number 3, feature 1. And in feature 1, there must be evaluation or study. A study of the statistics given here. Study of the statistics given here with the help of comparison and contrast. We have to keep in mind that in the feature 1, we have to study or evaluate the statistics given in the chart or figure you see with the help of comparison, contrast, or similarities and dissimilarities. And then feature 2, analysis. And in this very section, we have to analyze the statistics. And these very analysis will give us a decision or the trend of the statistics of the chart. And then we'll go for conclusion. Conclusion will actually end up or wrap up with a consideration, and that may be positive. Anyway, now we are reading out the writing for your understanding. But when you will go for writing or describing the chart, you don't need to write introduction. You don't need to write overview. You don't need to write feature 1, this thing. You don't write. You don't write these things. You write the body, but you don't write the segments or parts. You don't require to write the conclusion. No conclusion. You don't write. You don't want to. You don't need to write these words. Just you write the description. This is the introduction. But you please don't write introduction. You omit this word introduction. You write from here. And I told you that introduction actually gives us what the chart is about, or the subject of the chart. But we are not to write the same words or same sentence structures given in the question. the time allocation of students' daily activities as far as possible. We have to change the words, we have to change the sentence structures when we go for writing introduction. The pie chart displays the period of time students spend in doing their different daily activities on average. You understand? You try to understand that this is what I have written. You see, in the introduction, I have already given the reflection of the subject of the chart, time and location of students' daily activities here, and I have given this information in this very sentence in my own way, in my own words, in my own sentences. The pie chart displays the period of time students spend in doing their different daily activities on average. I've written these words for your understanding. Introduction ki korechi, what the introduction uh, reflects. Introduction reflects the information of the person in a different way using different words. You don't write. You don't write this portion. An overview. But when you are writing the answer, you are not to write overview. For your understanding, I have written this. The students spend their largest proportion of time in sleeping. You see here, the students spend their largest proportion of time in sleeping. You see here, sleeping 30% of time, the longest time, the largest proportion of time. The students spend their largest proportion of time in sleeping, whereas they have to make the lowest allocation for playing. You see, for playing only 5% time. School and house occupy a considerable period of time. School and house, 25%. So it's considerable time. As for the study, their engagement slightly goes down, and their recreational activities cover even shorter area. So this is the general information. That means the information that has been given in the statistics. All the information I have taken from the percentage mentioned in the chart. From the percentage of time, I have taken the information and I have written the description of the percentage of the time in my own way. This is general overview, briefly describes the key features of the chart. There are most important aspects of the chart, most important things or information actually given in the overview. And then comes down to feature 1. In feature 1, we will write evolutionary study. That means in feature 1, we will show the study or how we evaluate the different percentages of time. You see here, it is important to notice that students like to sleep most, covering 30% of their whole time. You see, it's important. I mentioned percentage here. When you are evaluating, when you're studying, you have to give percentage, but not exactly the percentage. Sometimes you can make your own percentage by adding or by deducting. So it is important to notice that students like to sleep most, covering 30% of that whole time, but they remain in the playground only for 5% of their time. Of course, they have to spend at school and house for a long time, covering 25% of the day. For study, students use their time with care, covering 20% of their time. For study, students use their time. No, repetition. For study, students use 20% of their time with care. With care, so they spend 12% time for recreation. For study, students use 20% of their time with care, though they spend 12% time for recreation. Officer one first is specific detail. You see here, details have been given in a specific way. That is why specific detail, because there is percentage. Percentage used in the statistics. So I have given the percentage. That is why this is a specific detail. But this is a study. This is a study or evaluation. But in the second para, that means feature number 2, we have analysis. We have to go for analysis of the percentage of data given in the chart. It is apparent from the chart that the students are more interested to get involved in static activities than the dynamic activities, because they spend many hours in sleeping, then at home, school, and then they also spend a lot of time for recreation. But they don't like to go to the playground where they will have to go for physical exercise or physical activities. We know only 5% time is spent for physical activity in the playground. That is why it is apparent from the chart that the students are more interested to get involved in static activities. Static activities, that means activities that do not require physical movement. Dynamic activities means the activities that require physical movement. So the students are more interested in static activities than dynamic activities. That is why I have written the aspect in my own sentence in this way, in a analytical way. It is apparent from the chart that the students are more interested to get involved in static activities than dynamic ones. They are not much interested to go to the playground where they have to go through physical events. It's very important. It's the analysis. This is the analysis that has come from the percentage of time students use or spend in different activities. So they spend only 5 minutes out of 100. They spend only 5 minutes out of 100 in the playground. In the playground. So they seem to have an interest in recreation. It is very clear that they are actually willing to enjoy recreation. They want to enjoy pleasure. It doesn't clearly refer to physical involvement. That means not all kinds of recreation require physical involvement. So I have written information in this way. Though they seem to have an interest in recreation, it doesn't clearly refer to physical involvement. This is the result I have got from the analysis of the data or the percentage of the time mentioned in the chart. Then I have come to the conclusion in this way. Of course, the needful attention of the students towards study is quite positive in any consideration. It is very much clear that students actually spend considerable time for making a study, for going to for study. So there is a possibility, there is a potential, I think, possibility that the students are quite interested to study and to make their future through study. It's important, and it's actually uh, uh, important to notice that the needful attention, the attention actually the students need, they give. The students give attention on their study, and if they continue giving attention on their study in this way, in future they will be able to create or make their future bright. So this is the positive note. We have got one positive note from the statistics, from the information in the chart, that students are quite interested in study, and through study they can come to a bright future in their life. I think you have got the description of the chart one by one. First, we have given introduction. Introduction gives us uh, information about the subject, or the what is the chart is, what the chart is about. Then we have come to overview. Overview is the general description of the information or main features or main aspects of the chart. But in overview, we are not to use any kind of data or percentage or any information like that. But in feature one, when we are studying or when we are evaluating the chart, we have to use data, percentage, and many other things, and we have to use similarities, dissimilarities, comparison, and contrast. In feature 2, this is analysis. That means what we actually get from the feature, what is the result of the study. Analysis is the process or procedure of reaching the result or the conclusion or decision of the chart, or the shaping trend of the chart. And then we have come to conclusion. In conclusion, there should be a decision, and very usual that a conclusion usually gives us a positive consideration, because in the conclusion we have come to know that students are quite interested in study, and through the study they will be in future in a bright life. Students, now I'm going back to your comments, whether you have written any comments or not. Uh, please write. I already did that twice. MTA. 8 students are now present. I request you to write comments, please, whether you have understood or not. Please write comments whether my lecture is understandable to you or easy to understand for you. Whether my speech or voice is clear to you, please write your comments. Write your comments, please. Whether you have understood what I said, what I discussed in the class, in the online class. Please write your comments. Is my class clear to you? Understandable? Please write your comments. Please write your comments. So thank you very much, MT Eklil. Yes, sir, I have understood your lecture. Thank you very much. And now I will go for discussing the second one. I have composed as many as three description of three pie charts for your understanding and for ACC preparation, so that you can prepare yourself by going through all these pie charts and prepare yourself. So thank you very much. I have got only one. Yes, sir, cleared. Okay, thank you, but I'm going back to my own class. You see here the second one, question number 2. Look at this chart. It shows the distribution of a family's income by percentage into different categories. Now analyze the chart, focusing the main aspects. It's a board question. Now look at this chart. It shows the distribution of a family's income by percentage into different categories. Now analyze the chart, focusing the main aspects. That means there are as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aspects. But the question actually puts stress on focusing the main aspect. That means the aspects that are very much important and with larger percentage. You see, food 20%, distribution of a family's income. That means we know uh, there are members of a family who actually earn for the family, and the earnings or the money the family members earn for the family are spent on different aspects or for purchasing different things. You see here for food, that means the money spent for purchasing food 25%, money spent for purchasing clothes 30%, money spent for education 22%, power, electricity or gas 5%, transport 12%, for others not mentioned 8%, and savings 15%. So you see, savings, I think, and you should think that savings, the amount or the percentage of the money is quite considerable. 50% of the entire or the whole income is quite considerable and important. So 15% is savings, important. Food 20% very, very important. Education 22% very, very important. And clothes and transportation are very much close to one another. The difference is only 1%. In the same way, I have written the introduction. And I have already told you that introduction actually subject, reflects the subject of the chart, but in a different language, not the same language given in the question. The pie chart presents how a family's income is distributed on its different needs. You see here in the question, the subject is given in the language, the distribution of a family's income by percentage into different categories. You see, the distribution of a family's income. And I have written here, the pie chart presents how a family's income is distributed on its different needs. Because all of the needs, food is a need, clothes need, education need, power need, all the items are quite need. All the items are needs of the family. And the second sentence, they see that the percentages refer to the magnitudes of the family's requirements. The percentages refer means magnitudes, height and height. Magnitudes means height for the family's requirements or the measurements. You have to understand magnitudes means measurement of height. This is the introduction. I have written 2 sentences per introduction to reflect the subject. Actually, I have divided the subject of the question into 2 sentences. The first sentence is about the family need, and the second sentence is about the percentage. And then overview, that means general statement, outline in a general statement of the main aspects of the chart. Overview actually is the outline or the general description of the main points, main aspects of the chart without mentioning any percentage or any figure or any statistics. The family spends the highest portion of the income on food and on education. On the other hand, the lowest cost is on power. The cost on clothes and transport is almost the same. However, the family saves a good percentage, though it has to incur some additional expenses on other unmentionable items. যেগুলি mention করা যাচ্ছে না. I think you have got the idea from the overview. In Piscer 1, we know in Piscer 1, we have to evaluate or study the statistics given in the chart. It is notable that 60% of the family income, 60% family income is spent on the basic needs of the family: food, clothes, and education. These are the basic needs: food, clothes, and education. The family has a positive trend to save for future, amounting 15% of its income. Of course, it has to spend 20% on transport and on other informal needs as usual. So you have got the overall information. This is the study of the information percentage given in the chart. Then Piscer 2, analysis. The distribution of the family's income brings to our clear notice that the family is confined within the limitation of its income incapacity. The distribution of the family's income brings to our clear notice that the family is confined within the limitation of its income incapacity. Because in the percentage of the distribution of money, we please look at the chart. There is not a mention of recreation. Any kind of recreation has not been mentioned here, but we know we need to spend money or income on different types of recreation. We cannot do our life, go in our life without recreation. Recreation is essential in a healthy, in a sound life. But there is a mention of any recreational, I think, aspect of the chart. There is no mention of any recreational activities here. But there is others 8%. But this 8% is not sufficient for recreation, because there are a number of course, there should be a number of family members, and each member should be allocated some money for a recreation. Anyway, I have tried to show this very lapse or the insufficiency of the income It is notable that 60% now, it is analysis. Distribution of the family's income brings to a clear notice that the family is confined within the limitation of its income incapability. You see, it does not have ability to extend expenditure outside the basic needs except for a moderate family savings. It's very important. It does not have ability to extend expenditure outside the basic needs except for a moderate family savings. There is no individual allocation on recreation and health care, which is a great lapse of the family. It indicates the insufficiency of family earnings. So this is the analysis. And then conclusion. Anyway, the big budget on education magnifies a light of hope that the family will rise up and reach economic sufficiency in future through developing human resources. It's very important because the budget on education is quite good. So the family members are very much, I think, conscious and careful about the education of the family members, especially for children. So when the children of the family will rise up through education, will be able to earn sufficient earnings. So then their economic capability will be bright. So it's a positive point. So in conclusion, we have come to conclusion that there is a positive point that in future the family will come out of the economic crisis now they are facing, and the means of coming out of their crisis is education. Time is almost finished, yet I want to finish the third one. Look at the pie chart. Shows the sources of the US electricity in 1980. Now analyze the chart focusing the main aspects, at least in 80 words. You see here, source of US electricity in 1980. Source, this is the title or the subject of the chart. Sources of USA electricity in 1980. And there are allocations in percentage. Say, hydroelectric power, 60%. The demand of the entire electricity, how they produce electricity from different resources, how Americans use their resources to produce to manufacture their electricity. They use hydroelectric power, 60%. They get electricity from nuclear resources, only 2%. They use nuclear resources only 2%. It's significant. And they use oil, only 12%, but coal, 46%. Natural gas, 24%. It's very important. You see, coal and natural gas are natural resources. And I think in America, there is a very big or enormous source of these two natural resources. Coal and natural gas is quite available in huge quantity in America. That is why they use their own potential resources first. And they actually then they go for nuclear hydroelectric power, because when they will go for using water for producing electricity, they will have to discharge water resources. As that is why this might be the reason, and they you see they went to nuclear resources last with the lowest percentage. All the information are quite important, you see, and I have reflected all the information of the chart in the writing. Introduction. The pie chart illustrates the sources that USA used to produce her required electricity in 1980. illustrates the sources that USA used to produce her required electricity in 1980, the year, 1 year. The percentages reflect the individual dimensions of different energy sources of the country. Anyway, overview, we have already discussed that. Overview actually explains in general, in words, the main aspects of the statistics given in the chart. Main aspects, main issues, not in details, but without using any percentage or any data. US energy sector was mainly based on coal as the segment added highest proportion of electricity to the national grid. The second highest came from the natural gas, which was just double the amount produced from oil. Of course, the lowest came from nuclear sector. This is the general information. Then specific feature 1, evolutionary study. It is really significant that 46% electricity of the total requirement was produced from coal alone in 1980. In 1980. Though from natural gas, the country produced 24%. The contribution of the nuclear sector was only 2%. It is also important to notice that the joint contribution of the hydroelectric power and oil sector constitutes only 28% of the national need of this sector. In this sector, it is also important to notice that the joint contribution of hydroelectric power and oil sector constitutes only 28% of the national need. Sector analysis. Overall study of the chart implies that USA in 1980 was basically dependent on the natural resources of gas and coal for her energy. The country clearly tried to depend less on oil and nuclear sectors since oil and nuclear energy had many other crucial and vital sectors to use like medicine and atomic weapons. Moreover, the option of water resources for hydroelectric power suggests the same intention of consuming natural and available resources of the country. In conclusion, the energy policy of USA in 1980 was to make the best use of natural resources that were available in the country. Besides, America put her best endeavors not to enter into the risk of exploiting the resources of producing nuclear electricity in massive amounts. So I think if you are very much attentive to what I say, you of course have understood all the chart description. The third one is quite easy to understand. This is about the American electricity production in the year 1980. And the very chart or statistics given in the chart indicates that America is interested to use their own natural resources available in the country in huge amounts. They don't like to use their water or nuclear sector because it is very much risky to use nuclear energy to produce electricity, number one. Number two, Nuclear energy is used in many other sectors like producing medicines or giving treatment to different difficult diseases. Number three, Americans are very much interested to prepare or make nuclear weapons using their nuclear capacity. So as they have huge or enormous amount of coal and natural gas, they like to first exploit or use these two natural resources of themselves, of their own, and then they have least intention to go for using nuclear energy. So this is the most important feature of this very chart. So if you have any query, any problem, any question, you please write in the comment section. And in my coming class, that means the class after tomorrow, uh, I will go for another issue. Perhaps I will go for illustrating say line chart or graph. You also require to know about line chart or graph chart. So I will go for another two examples on line chart and graph in my coming class, and then I'll go for essay. So till then, stay home, safe, and please don't go out if it is not essential. This is my expectation for you. So thank you very much. Hello, Manish. হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ না এখন টাইম শেষ হয়ে গেছে শেষ করে দিয়েছি তো হ্যাঁ